They say communication is the key to every relationship. But what they don't say is how silence can feel safer than honesty in a world that praises openness. Why do some people choose quiet instead? Why does holding back feel protective, even when it slowly erodes connection? There is a silent pattern here. Not indifference, not lack of love, but a learned stillness that hides beneath loyalty. Tonight, this is what will be explored. Let's begin. It rarely begins with a dramatic argument. It begins with a sentence you almost say, a small correction, a soft boundary, a truth that rises to your throat and pauses there. Your chest tightens first, not painfully, just enough to notice. Your jaw stills. Your breathing becomes shallow, as if the air itself is waiting to see what you will do. You could speak. You could say, "That hurt." You could say, "I don't agree." You could say, "I need something different." But something inside you leans toward quiet instead. Silence, in that moment, feels stabilizing, like stepping back from the edge of a cliff. Conflict feels like open flame, unpredictable and consuming. Quiet feels like control, so you nod. You soften, you swallow the sentence, and the room remains calm. On the surface, nothing breaks. Inside, something folds inward. This is not weakness. It is protection. A nervous system choosing safety over exposure. A reflex that says, better to stay steady than to risk losing the bond. The quiet shift happens quickly, and often, no one else even notices. Long before silence entered your relationships, it entered your childhood. There may have been moments when you spoke honestly, and the response felt sharp. A sigh, a raised voice, a look that said you were too sensitive, too dramatic, too much, or perhaps your words were not criticized, just ignored. You explained how you felt, and the room moved on as if nothing had been said. Needs were minimized, emotions were redirected, vulnerability met with discomfort. Over time, something quiet formed inside you. You began testing the waters before speaking, measuring tone, studying reactions, asking yourself, is this worth the risk? Because sometimes expressing hurt led to distance. Sometimes asking for reassurance led to withdrawal. And sometimes honesty shifted the emotional temperature of the room in ways that felt destabilizing. So you adapted. You learned that staying agreeable kept the peace, that shrinking your needs kept connection intact, that silence reduced friction. What looks like calm in adulthood may have begun as strategy in childhood. Silence is not always personality. Sometimes it is memory, carved into the nervous system by moments when speaking cost you something. Not all silence is chosen. Some of it is neurological. When tension rises in a relationship, a sharp tone, a disappointed glance, an unexpected accusation, the body reacts before language forms. Deep within the brain, systems designed for survival begin scanning for threat. For some nervous systems, conflict does not activate fight. It activates freeze, heart rate shifts, muscles tighten, thoughts slow or scatter. Words that felt clear seconds ago dissolve into fog. You are still present, but something inside you has gone still. This is not manipulation. It is not coldness. It is protection. When the brain perceives relational instability, it may prioritize safety over expression. Better to become quiet than to escalate. Better to minimize movement than to risk rupture from the outside. It can look like withdrawal, indifference, emotional distance, but inside, it often feels like overwhelm. The mind wants to respond. The heart wants to clarify. Yet the body chooses shutdown because at some earlier point in your life, conflict equaled danger. And the nervous system learned that silence reduced that danger. So in moments of relational heat, you cool yourself by disappearing slightly. Not because you do not care, but because your biology is trying to keep you safe. Silence may protect the bond, but it slowly strains the self. At first, the cost is subtle. A small heaviness after the conversation ends. A sentence you replay later in your mind. The one you almost said. You tell yourself it wasn't important. It wasn't worth the disruption, and perhaps it wasn't. But over time, the unspoken begins to accumulate. Like sediment settling at the bottom of a river, your unsaid thoughts gather quietly. They do not disappear. They wait. Resentment rarely arrives as anger at first. It arrives as distance, a slight emotional step backward, a hesitancy to open up again, a softness that becomes thinner each time it is stretched. You start to feel unseen, not because the other person refuses to look, but because you have stopped showing certain parts. And there is a grief in that. The grief of not being fully known, of loving someone while withholding pieces of your inner world to keep the peace, of maintaining connection externally while shrinking internally. Silence can keep a relationship stable on the surface, but beneath that surface, erosion continues. And eventually, you may find yourself wondering, how close can someone truly feel to you if they have never heard your truth? Somewhere along the way, you may have learned that needing less makes you easier to love. Be flexible. Be understanding. Don't make things complicated. You became the calm one, the reasonable one, the one who doesn't ask for much. And at first, this identity feels noble, mature, secure, but needing less is not the same as feeling less. Behind the low-maintenance exterior, your needs do not vanish. They simply grow quieter. You adjust your expectations. You downplay disappointment. You tell yourself, it's fine. Yet relationships are not sustained by silence. They are sustained by mutual visibility. When one person consistently minimizes their needs, the balance shifts. Not intentionally, not maliciously, just gradually. You begin accommodating more than expressing, supporting more than revealing, listening more than being heard, and over time, you may feel strangely invisible, even while being deeply involved. The myth says that love is easier when you are undemanding, but love cannot respond to needs it cannot. See, self-silencing does not make you simpler, it makes you smaller, and shrinking to maintain harmony can quietly erase the very parts of you that long to be known. At some point, something begins to feel heavier than the conflict you are avoiding, the silence itself. You notice how often you leave conversations with unfinished thoughts, how your body carries tension long after the moment has passed, how peace on the surface does not always equal peace inside, and a quiet realization forms. Silence once protected you, but it may no longer be protecting you now. There was a time when staying quiet reduced harm, when speaking meant escalation, when restraint preserved connection, But relationships built on safety rather than survival require something different. They require presence. The turning point is not loud. It does not arrive with confrontation. It begins as a question whispered inward. What if it is safe to be heard? Not perfectly, not forcefully, just honestly. You begin noticing the difference between fear-based quiet and grounded pause. Fear-based quiet shrinks you. Grounded pause steadies you before speaking. Expression no longer feels like attack. It feels like alignment. You may still feel your chest tighten before difficult words. You may still hesitate, but beneath that hesitation, something new grows. The belief that connection can survive your truth, and that your voice is not a threat to love, but a bridge toward it. There is a way to speak without hardening. For a long time, you may have believed that expression required sharp edges, that if you finally used your voice, it would have to arrive as eruption, like a volcano that had been quiet for too long. But truth does not have to burn to be real. You can say, "That hurt," without accusation. You can say, "I need something different," without threat. You can say, "This matters to me," without apology. Gentleness and clarity are not opposites. They can coexist. Holding a boundary does not mean building a wall. It means outlining the shape of your inner world and trusting that someone who cares will want to understand it. You do not have to abandon your softness to be heard. In fact, your softness may be what makes your voice powerful. If parts of this reflection felt familiar, if you recognized yourself in the quiet moments described here, you are not alone. Many people carry this pattern silently, believing their restraint is maturity rather than protection. If you'd like to stay connected to a space where these hidden dynamics are explored gently, or silence, fear, and expression are understood without judgment, you are welcome here. And if you feel comfortable, you can share your experience below. Not because you must, but because your honesty might help someone else feel less alone in their quiet. Take care of yourself. You deserve to be heard, gently,